I'm also good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for welcoming my voice into this space. Everyone has been so kind. It's been really sweet to be here. In the first reading, I did a call and response. In this reading, I would love to do a similar thing. If you will participate in it with me. I want you to think about the last person who made you laugh, like really laugh, right? Just think of who they are, their name, and I'll let you do that. And then I'll count to 3, and I want you to say their name in the space, and the proposal is for a moment they'll be here. Their energy will be here. Is that cool? All right, so let me think of the last person who made you laugh. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Louder. Okay, let's do it again. Louder. 1, 2, 3. Louder. Nice. Cool. All right. Yeah, my roommate Blythe, she's a poet as well. Her book just came out with Bud. She's hilarious, and I was talking about coming here and reading like really sad poems, and she's like, sadness is good and anger is the joy. Whiteness shops for a prayer. How do you pray? Does it involve a keyboard? Is it in 140 characters or less? Does it have a barcode? Does it have a Wikipedia page? Is it in English? Is it tax deductible? Does it include all lives? Is your prayer gluten-free? Is it safe around children? Is there an abridged version? Is your prayer an all-purpose cleaner, natural selection? Can it get out the black? Can it clean up the tough stains? Is your prayer running for president? Can your prayer run? Does it do yoga? Is it active? I don't understand. Can you translate? Can you teach me? Can your prayer teach? Is it articulate? Where can I get one? Where is it from? Is it in right now? Is it spicy? Will it burn my tongue? Does it come with anything else? Compound interest? Buy one, get one free? Is it exclusive? Can I join? Do I have to close my eyes, or can I just post it? Does it hang well? Polyester? Silk? Is it safe online? Does it have a Facebook option? Paris filter? Does it love its country? It has to love its country. Was it born here? Is it pre-washed? Will it attack my opinion? Does it come with a leash? How much? Is it reusable? Which religion? Can I crop it? One size fits all? Where was it made? Can you prove it? Is it carbonated? Is it domesticated? Is it domestic? Is it sharp? Is it natural? Where is it from? Does your prayer have papers? Does it come with instructions? How does it look? Does it bite? How does it look? Does it fit? How does it look? How does it look? How does it look? Does it come in white? It's like the shadiest poem I've ever written. I'm really proud of it. New country, after Safia El Hilo. I pledge allegiance to my mother's garden, and leftover greens, and Lowry's seasoning salt, and cast iron skillets hung like new rusting crucifixes beside the stove. I pledge allegiance to Solange and coconut oil. I pledge allegiance to Grindr and my nudes sent like shiny brown flags. I pledge allegiance to the inside joke on Black Twitter, to Selby Avenue, the side-eye emoji, free open mics, and to laughter breaking like bread. Yeah, I'm salty as fuck, America. That's what happens when you're dragged across an ocean, when you're curved by a country that soaks its feet in your blood. I pledge allegiance to no bullet or ballad, no they or bald bird or well-intentioned white women offering hugs. I choose the cipher at dusk, the swaying circle and the music we make with our mouths, our good mouths, and the ghosts that sometimes crawl out. I choose Sunday Candy's chorus, our humming bodies, and the street lamp flickering on beat this impromptu preamble, warmed by our own resilience. I choose the bus stop and the soft whir of dead leaves, November's falling sun, good, soft light stretching our dancing shadows, tossing us into the night's cool air. in which the orphan sister is murdered 6 months after his mother's death. It wasn't bad enough that she was shot in front of her children. Her body lay 6 hours in the July rain. The news report said female and not woman. The whole neighborhood watched, but no one saw a thing. She wasn't the intended target. She warmed a plate for a man who would eventually use her as a shield. I ran from 5th and Penn, pajamas only, wailing harder than the sky. Someone stole gifts from the tree curb memorial. Her daughters whispered, get up, at the casket. She registered to return to school in the fall. She cried the first time she fired a gun. Mom dreamt she would be the first of us to go. I could let the blood return to my molting brain, unpin revenge from its crowded shrine where I've planned to toss his crimson body, one splashing limb at a time. I could so easily let my heart back inside this burning house, return the shovels to my mother's forgotten shed. I could forfeit the hunt. I promise, I'm a kind boy. Just don't tell me that she bought him a bulletproof vest. She died in his arms. He dropped her spilling body and fled. Okay, I'll read this poem. It's so cool to read a poem, and sometimes I don't know necessarily how to perform it, but I figure it out in the moment. It's cool. So I'll figure this out. Denial. 5 stages of grief. Denial. My mother is dead. My mother is dead. My is dead. My mother dead. My mother is dead. My mother is dead. Mother, my mother is my dead. My mother dead is my mother. My dead mother is mother. My is dead is mother. Dead my is mother. My dead mother. My dead is my dead mother. Dead is my mother. Dead mother. My mother. Dead is my is mother. Dead is mother. Dead my is dead. Dead mother. Mother my is dead is my mother. Dead. Anger. And I wish there was a soft metaphor to lower you into this grief. Instead, I will say, I didn't kill myself because I knew my siblings couldn't afford another funeral. I will say each night I dreamt of stealing back her body, not a hooked rope naively thrown toward heaven, not abandoned thieving God's house of what belongs to me. I mean, I grabbed a shovel. I mean, she's buried on Dale and Larpenter and taught all her children how best to tend stubborn dirt. Bargaining. I had wanted nothing more than to survive my childhood, to walk clean-faced and unafraid out of that constant alarm. To mourn her is to mourn the belt, and the hands that held the belt, and the heart that held the hands that spilled my blood like juice across the kitchen linoleum. Don't use my good towels either. Besides, what good is survival's trophy if your assailant is dead? Come back, even if it means your hug is a hand around my throat, even if your kiss is delivered with a fist. Oh, how quickly I would crawl back into that haunted house, that graveyard where every hymn goes to die. Oh, how ready I am to be thinned with fear, 7 and tear drunk, to heave and pop like ready oil, to throw a knife at the family portrait, to soar bitch from my lips like a fevered bird, to wish her dead beneath my breath while I scrub myself off the floor. Depression rakes the night sky of its stars, keeps them as leverage, as bulbless lamps in the basement of me. I am alive if alive means to be a moth caught in the hands of some childish grief. Shake me to see if I am still breathing. Burn my wings if I am not. Confession. The want to die is not always the want not to live, but sometimes the want to live somewhere softer, where the tall grass lulls my body to sleep, where everything promises to stay alive. Acceptance. Grief again. Every black woman with gray hair is your dead mother. You collapse in Walmart, knees buckled at the sight of an electric scooter. You wrap yourself around yourself and wail into a naked mattress. Your lover's hand is placed like heated stones along your heaving back. You don't want to be touched and want to be touched everywhere. You show the dean the death certificate and are allowed to stay another semester. Drowning would be easiest, you think, as rain draws razor-thin lines down your bedroom window. Grief is a paper cut at every bend in your body. No, grief shaves each bone down to a shriveled white flag. You want to die, but you don't want to leave a mess. You throw a mug across the kitchen in envy. It's sudden dissection. Every word your mother last spoke scuttles like mice in your deserted head. Memory is a ruptured organ. Memory is a ghost begging for new flesh. Memory taps a gun to your inner skull and demands you bring back the dead. How are we? A few more poems. Thank you for holding these poems. Teething, a crumbling pantoum. Starts as a pantoum and I'm like, no. Halfway through it. In my worst dream, all of my teeth fall out. True, I have this dream often. I awake like a fire choking on air. Teeth are the hardest substance in the human body. Suddenly, I am the boy defined by what he has lost. I awake as a fire choking on air, and the mother sharpens my name with her tongue, whittles it down to faggot. Suddenly, I am the boy defined by what is given to him. What is a dream, if not the mind pulling ribbons from my throat? The mother sharpens my skin with faggot, whittles me down with Leviticus. The uncle says one gay nephew has flooded enough. What are teeth, if not the telling of which parts of you most easily soften when sweet to be queer, to be sweet to be queer? And black is to walk out of the closet into a casket. My queer says my black is flooded enough. The mother says confession, says communion, drink the blood, says to be straight, to be calm, to pray, to kneel eager with a ready mouth before God, and what is left to do but pluck the bones from my face. Okay, so I haven't read this poem in a while. This is exciting, sorry. The Orphan Dines with Ghosts. I wrote this probably like 4 years ago while having Thanksgiving dinner with my brothers, my biological brother's adopted family. I love them and they be messing up sometimes. They're like really, you know, it's one of those things. And so I wrote this poem. My brother's adopted mother asked us not to talk about politics at the dinner table. The orphan dines with ghosts. There are dead boys at the dinner table and white women running out of words to compliment the turkey. They say soft, and I imagine the salt and smack of a bullet rattling like pinball in a black boy's jaw. They say more pepper, and my melanin remembers how sugar is the spice to an open wound, then begins to melt. They say too dry, and Ferguson and Minneapolis and Detroit and become a death desert, a bouquet of wilting girls left to give the ground some color. They say stuffed, and Wilson's bank account becomes flooded with ancient blood, begins to pay bills with the dead boy's bones. They say so good, and all the ghosts resurrect, begin to suck their teeth, to blow on the back of pale necks. Donte, why haven't you touched your food? Why so quiet, Donte? Why so quiet? Because we're being hunted. Always. bound like wheat left to soil under sun, and you sit sighing about your privilege, full stomach foreign to the bodies you break bread over, got crumbs nested in my brother's corpse, and I'm pissed. I've justified our murders too, dissected the lettering of my autopsy in search of any hiding justice. Somewhere living is a man paid to make my mother mourn. Somewhere living is a law that says my brothers and I can't walk 3 or more in North Minneapolis. Somewhere living is white America, laughing, licking spoons in their living room, unbothered, breathing, the news cheerleading their silence, historically violent headlines like looting after innocent verdict. And you, ma'am, want me to be quiet, want me black enough for decoration, want me 2 words or less, obituary ready and dressed, boy, just dance off those bullets, just write a poem about progression, want me articulate until the trigger won't understand racism until someone calls me a nigger, but until then you won't write it. And we'll just sit, cutlery awkwardly cutting the silence, culturally divided. You'll say, something about this meal is off. And I'll think, white guilt must make everything taste like a grave. I'll end with this. So my mom, growing up, used to tell this story, one of my favorite stories, about my brother Lamar, about how when she was seeking to adopt more children, she had a dream of my brother. And when she saw him, she was faint because it was the boy in her dreams, right? And yeah, and she told this story over and over, and I wanted to write about it. Here it is. Yeah, I'll let the poem do it. So adoption day, coming home, 1998, for Lamar. If to die means to dream forever, to live among the shapeless and hovering, I know what story keeps my mother company. If you knew her, you knew about the dream, the one where her fruitless body wished for the plum-skinned boy, and then the boy walks through her front door. If you did not know her, here. So the characters, Aunt Paula, Aunt Nancy, Aunt Charlotte. It was like she saw a ghost. Just like that, a ghost jumped up and everything, damn near jumped out her skin, hollering about some dream, just like Mary, ain't it? Dreaming of ghosts, just like her, damn near scared the children, damn near made the social worker send y'all back, hollering like she was, said she seen him before, your brother dreamt up his bones, said she labored him every night for 9 months, every night she said, crying like she be just like Mary, ain't it? Always crying, always. Took his face between her palms, real tight like she was praying, like his face was the New Testament. Took his face between her palms real tight like she was praying, like his face was the New Testament, weeping like she was, and she was examining his face like fruit, looking for a bruise, some birthmark, some evidence only she could understand. Your mother, child, your mama, boy, your mother must have found it, must have seen what she was looking for, must have fell in love, must have wept the Red Sea, and that's when she jumped. She did, flame-like, screaming like she was, it's him, kept saying it's him, her tears drawn lines on his face wide-eyed and puffy, his face a fruit rinsed clean, held him close, held you two, breathless and sweating like she just gave birth, like y'all was blood or panting and covered in hers. You was there, don't you remember? Was nothing but 2 years old, couldn't have. Your mama was, boy, your mom, child, your mother was something else. And I don't remember this bloodless birth, our second mother holding our small bodies to her breast. But I know it happened. I've seen the photos. I've met strangers who I hear took turns carrying me on their shoulders. And I will not beg you to believe this gentle miracle, this impossible bedtime story shared whenever we needed a reminder of who we belong to. How strange now that she is gone. And we, my brother and I, are the ones rushing home to sleep, hoping to lay down our grief, hoping, if only for a moment, she appears laughing in our dreams.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who's here today everybody who's read the book in their classes and submitted questions. I'm going to be asking Donte some of your questions, and then you will have time at the end to take questions from the audience. So be thinking about what you want to ask if your question doesn't get answered. So how many of you were here at the earlier session today? Okay, just a couple. So I am going to start by kind of bringing up something we did talk a little bit about earlier, which was writing about grief. And one question that students had was, were you writing about grief when it was pretty fresh or had some time passed, and how did that affect your creation of these poems?
I was very much in the throes of grief as I was writing, and I think that it allowed a kind of honesty to see through, kind of a more rich honesty that I think that I would have revised out had I not been. And it was difficult because I didn't want to necessarily publish my journal, right? I wanted to have poems that took care of the reader as well. And so I think when I talked to my advisor about this, at the time I worked closely with her, about how do you, if there's no distance between you and what you're writing about, what tools can you use to sort of create that distance so that the reader is okay as they read? So I think that it was a cool thing to figure out, and I think I succeeded in some ways, and in other ways I did not, but that's great. It's all great.
What were some of those tools that your advisor suggested? Donte was an MFA student at the time at Oxford College when you wrote this, and so how did were you able at some point to step back from and kind of look at the poems as the individual artwork that they are?
Yeah. Well, first it's like getting the draft out, letting that, drafting the poem by hand, which allows for me, or allowed the stakes to be lower. I don't like to say, the stakes to be lower, and for me to really get what I wanted to say out. And then you have text that can be, revised. And then at that point, it was about making sure that the poem had a kind of direction. It had a thesis, a volta, a turn, or something in it. It was very mechanical in that way, because the first thing was very, like a journal entry. That was the process of that.
And then how did you take, these individual poems and create them, into a firm manuscript? Were there a lot of poems that were left out?
Yeah.
And how did you determine order? I'm particularly interested in the frontispiece poem, Death Ain't Nothing But a Song.
Yeah.
That feels really like a tribute to your mother. And did you want to open with something that was kind of,
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to open with something that maybe could possibly tell the reader that she is gone, we know this already. But she's very much here, and look at the different ways that she is here, or how I see her to be alive still. So that was fun. But then also, the next poem is the orgy poem, and while it's hilarious and very sad, I wanted something to cushion that, because I knew my family was going to read this book. And I was like, you can't start the book, talking about orgy. So I wanted them to meet like this, this poem first, and then there's the blank page, and there's that one. But so how did I choose order? It was for me all about breath. And the story I wanted to tell, but I wanted to lace, or weave grief and joy. And I wanted the reader to have fun with it. I wanted to be as human as possible, And so I wanted you to have to interact with the book. If that makes sense. And I think, the tactic of that was to have poems that deal with grief and have poems that are, you know, funnier.
Yeah.
You know. So hopefully that came across. But that was my sort of.
I think it did, and I like that you brought up the orgy poem, because students have questions about that. And when you are writing a poem like that, where you mentioned family,
Right.
knowing who will read poems, does that ever influence your revision? Like, oh, do I want that out in the world, or you didn't let that stop you?
Right. I just can't. I can't. But I also understand. I was talking to my other roommate, Mara, who's a writer, and we talked about how she writes what she writes about and what keeps her. So I understand that as well. But I really was like, nah, let me lean into it. Let me try on this bravery. And it is odd, people coming up to me and saying that, I really enjoy this. I'm like, great. But no, I wanted to lean into that bravery. And it wouldn't have been real if I kept that out. I think one of the ways that I dealt with grief was was this innocent, sexualized, needing my body to be validated, needing to feel, and that was so much part of the grieving process. So I had to put it. And I don't know. I don't know how I'll feel in years to come, but I feel good now.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. So you mentioning that you read the poem where you moved through the stages of grief, and many students asked about how acceptance, it's just the word and there's nothing after it, which I thought was really powerful when you read it. How do you want that to be read, the absence of any language after that word?
Yeah. Exactly how it looks, right? Like, and the space is there. And the decision, that was the only decision that I had, because there was no acceptance. Anything I would have written would have been a lie. And then the next poem is grief again. And so even in that moment, when I got to the word, I was like, what? I didn't know. I haven't read that poem out loud. That's not true. In front of an audience, I haven't read it out loud. But yeah, to sit in that space. But also writing towards and living towards to fill that space, if that makes sense. And so when that poem comes, that poem will come. But it just didn't come. Yeah,
So we had several questions about the title of the book, how you decided to call it Autopsy, and then also the link with all of the poems that start with the orphan performs an autopsy. Did you do one and then think, hey, that's a great idea?
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
The first poem that I wrote with that sort of framework was The Garden. Yeah. And I wrote that poem, and I didn't know what to do with it. I wrote it, and I didn't know what to title it. But returning to the garden. My mom gardened. We gardened growing up. It was this ritual, almost. But yeah, when I got to that moment, I was like, okay, joy must be a flower among all this, not that. What's happening? So the orphan performs an autopsy on the garden. This thing that is the garden that was abandoned, that is no longer thriving. What's in that?
And is the idea that if you kind of take it apart and really examine it from different perspectives, you'll somehow get a new...
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. So didn't want to get it out of your body, and then, get, different forms of grief, get it out of your body and look at it from all different types of angles. So then, I knew I wanted in this book to have an erasure of the national anthem. And then so that title just sort of fit for me. I was like, okay. The orphan forms and autopsy on national anthem. The cover art, did you mention?
Yes,
Yeah, so the first book, or the first version of the book was self-published. And that's when I had the book release at Augsburg, and I have it here. So this is what it looked like at first. And so I sent the artist the first poem in the book, So I think that's in the song. And then he sent back this artwork. And when Button picked it up, there was complications of them, purchasing this art, whatever. So they hired Nikki, who sent over like 5 illustrations, and this is the one that I sent it to my community editors, and I'm like, oh, that's the one for sure. And for me, it represents a kind of interrupted, fragile beginning. But then also you think, well, what happened? Or you think, what happens after this when you open the book? Yeah, so that's.
So did you always know that Autopsy is the title? Or is that something that Button?
No. I did know that Autopsy was the title, and Donte Smith is a poet in the Twin Cities. I was talking to him about it. We're at this poetry event in like Oakland or whatever. And every time you see Donte, which is nice, he's like, or when the book wasn't out, he's like, when is the book come out? He's like, don't talk to me about anything unless you have. He's like, what's the title? And I told him then, Autopsy. He was like, who? He's like, cute, you can work with that. And the book, that was before my mother passed. Autopsy, that word appears in the Orphan Dines with Ghosts. And so after my mother passed, I thought, well, of course. And we knew how she passed. We knew, the cause of her death. And we decided not to perform an autopsy. My mom wouldn't have liked that. And so I was like, okay, yeah. People ask me often, like, when I change the title, I was like, no, because it's like exactly what it was meant to be. I think so. Yeah.
So I have a question from student Lilia Anderson, who asked, you very rarely use capital letters. Is that because most of your poems are based on feelings such as grief, and not capitalizing the letters gives the poem more emotion, or is there some other reason?
I like that. That's awesome. It makes sense. No, but that isn't my reason. I don't know. I'm not writing at that volume, I suppose. I'm not ever trying to write at that volume. And when you meet a sentence, for me, in my relationship to language, it's just a quieter beginning, a quieter beginning. And for you to start the line, and it's I want to say accessible, but I don't know why I want to use that word. So yeah, I'm always writing like from a place of strength, but also like it's all good. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, but I also love that. Yeah, it's cool.
So student Abby Gutenkopf asked, how did you mean for readers to perceive your poem Grief, the Inconvenient Translator? For example, you use I love you many different times, like I love you, I'll leave you. And then you use it again when you say I love you, don't kill yourself. Yeah. And that's on page 20.
Yeah. So how did I want them to perceive the poem? It's tough because when I was very much deep in grief, I understood what people were doing, sending their condolences. Grief for me gave birth to this new, and my brother said this thing we're talking about, this poem specifically, he says, grief, nothing but grief can prepare you for grief. And it gave birth to this new language where people, in this new smoke where people were saying these things to me. And Donte knew that like they meant well, and I'm like, I can't hear that right now. And so I wanted that to live. I wanted it to be, so it's both. It's like, I love you. If you died, it would affect me. I hear that. I understand. I love you. Don't kill yourself. And some people said that because they knew that like I was not stable at that time, right? And I sent this poem to my editors, and Kyle, he sent back a note and he's like, you might want to revisit that poem because it is sort of off-putting. And I'm not saying that like don't send your condolences. I'm saying when you send your condolences, this is how my body is taking it. And so yeah, it's not, I don't know, I'm at war with it, it's at war with itself, but I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's really effective that way, right?
Yeah.
To consider all the different ways that you take in that language if you're in that emotional
Absolutely.
state.
Yeah. And the form. That's the only way in my head that the poem could exist. And at first, I wanted to have this idea in a poem, right? Like this idea that you're saying something to me, and the grief is changing the language, or I can just show that. I can just literally show what's happening. So that's what I chose.
So I'm going to ask one more student question and then come out to the audience. So think about what question you want to ask, and you can raise your hand, and Jennifer will come around with a microphone, and you can ask Donte your questions. So this question is from Samantha Herbert, and she asks, in Teething, a crumbling pantoum, you compare coming out of the closet as walking into a casket. Can you explain more on how you found the strength to share your sexuality and get past what others believe about you being queer?
Yeah. Honestly, I remember the moment, and I don't want to make it seem like this Lifetime film or whatever, but Human Nguyen, who's a Vietnamese American poet, he's amazing, and Denez Smith, they were reading at the Loft, and I was young, I don't know, it must have been like 17 or something, and closeted, totally queer, and I knew that and I was writing about this, but I wasn't sharing it. And I knew that I had to step into who I was in order to continue to be. And they're up there reading poems about their identity, and they're up there celebrating themselves. People are celebrating them. They're so comfortable. And so I thought, okay, let me try it. And that's why I say that their courage inspires mine, because it really does. When you see someone who looks like you, or undergoes the same plight as you really, I don't know, being unapologetic in their everything, it was sweet to see, and so I wanted to try that on. What was it?
I don't remember.
But then how, what would I say, or, yeah, I don't know. If,
we got parts of it. To share and get past what others believe about you being.
word. I find that the more that I define it for myself, what does queer mean? And I love, what does it mean? If I define it for myself, then I have an argument. And so what you think about me being queer doesn't matter, right? I have it, I hold it, I am it. And yeah, I don't know. So the more I define it.
Providing inspiration to other students.
Right.
Fantastic.
But I think the more that you define it for yourself, no matter what language you use or what, it's strong and powerful.
Okay, we have time for some student questions. And if you wouldn't mind, as Jennifer comes over, to just stand up, and we'll get to you. Okay, start there, and then second question.
Hi. So I noticed in your poems that you spoke a lot about the pain that your mother inflicted verbally and physically, and then you also touched on the pain you felt after she died. So how was that for you to write about both things? How does it compare?
Yeah. Well, I knew that I wanted to hold my mother in gold light, because she was amazing, right? She sacrificed a lot for my siblings and myself. And so I wanted to honor that, but also I can't honor that without also saying you abused us for a lot of, for most of our childhood. And for both things to be true, which is terrifying, but real. And so to hold those intentions, it wasn't hard, because I told, I had to tell the truth. And still, there's still more to write about that, right? There's still more to write about my mother's joy and my mother's, humanitarian work, and there's still more to process over the things that, she said to me. So it felt good to write about. It felt like the only thing to do that I could do. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Which poem was your favorite one to write?
Favorite poem to write. All of them were fun. All of them were fun. Okay, yeah, all of them were, I think, yeah, 13 Ways of Looking at 13 is fun because I knew like the stories that I wanted to tell in each segment. And so just sort of translate, you know, the memories of those stories into this like, you know, syllable count of 13 lines was fun. And like that form helped revise the memory. And that was fun to sort of participate in and, you know, do. It's like the only math that I'll ever be good at. Yeah.
Other questions?
You're a strong performer of your poems or sayer of your poems, so I'm just wondering, but now they're published in a book, right? They're written down. So I'm just curious if you could talk about the tension between poems as an oral art form and poems as a written form. Do you ever look at a poem on the page and think, I can't get on the page how it's supposed to sound in the air?
I never think that. I do think of it as a challenge though. And I try to be inventive and experimental with spacing that way so that the page can hold the rhythm and with punctuation. I do like how I read my poems. I do like it. You know, because I get to say it with the rhythm that I mean it in. And I want my poems to be successful in other people's mouths as well. And I want them to have their own rhythm. I want them to bring their bodies to it. And I think that's what poetry is also about. And what like spoken word adds to the poem. It's like someone with the body wrote this, right? And now it's yours, and now it meets your body. And how does it sound? So I think that's fun. So yeah, I think of it as a challenge. Yeah, it can happen. You just have to do it. You know, figure it out or have fun. You know. So.
Behind you.
She said I didn't need the mic, but I'm using it. As an African-American queer woman, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability, for writing this piece and being able to speak to people like us. Many poems I definitely understand on too many levels. Sometimes I was frustrated, other times it was like, this is freaking awesome that someone else gets it. Specifically, I want to tell you thank you for 13, because there's a piece in there that I feel like if you were a church-going Black person, that's the only way that you'll get that one part about you talking about being queer, come in the closet, they build a closet for you, and they beg you to come out.
Exactly.
That's heavy. So kudos to you for living in your truth as beautifully as you can. And thank you for being here. Thank you for putting out your work. And it just, it's nice to see representation, as well as it just pushes people, poets along like myself, to do the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you. What's your name?
Trina.
Trina.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Can we all just clap for that? That was awesome.
Your poem about with the national anthem, and then you only leave like certain words in. There's another poem like that as well about your mother's neighborhood, I believe. How did you decide which words you were keeping?
Yeah, so really, because I believe with erasure poems, I mean, there's an infinite amount. I'm sure there's some math limit to it based on how many words there are. But there are different stories that you can tell, so I have to choose what story that I wanted to tell. And sometimes, it's almost like it's the opposite of what you write. I don't know. Taking words out and then making sense. Taking the words out that I thought would highlight the story that I had in my head, and then going back to try to make sense of it. And that was the process of that. And yeah, and I remember Button sent over the final proofread thing, and they took a word out. That the poem couldn't survive without that word. And so it was nice to see that that I was able to mean what I said and then see it edited and it fall apart. But yeah, so it's about choosing the story and then giving it direction. And it's a fun exercise. It really is an exercise. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. In the back.
Autopsy was published in 2017. In the past few years, is there, going back to it, is there anything you would change about it if you were writing it today? Or is it perfect on the page the way it is?
Okay. So there are things that I would change. If given the opportunity, I wouldn't, if that makes sense. There are things that I would change, though, for sure. My writing style has changed. I think I knew what I was going to write about when I sat down to write most of these poems, which is fun, and it's kind of boring. The way I write, the way I'm trying to lean into, I'm trying to follow my intuition and trying to surprise myself with my new work. And this is fun and surprising in its way. So, I mean, there are things that I would change, I suppose, but I do like that it's a snapshot of where I was, right? Like, and some of the poems, I was sad as hell. And I'm like, whoa, but it's cool to return to that and to live on past it. So, I don't think, if given the opportunity, I wouldn't, because I do think that it's rich in that way, that I can return to where I was, and be proud of where I was.
Thank you. And so we're going to ask Donte just to read one more poem to end our session.
Cool, thank you. So this is for you, Trina.
Oh,
Got you. Thank you. Okay. In class, when called on like a thief and something on you stiffens, hardens, hangs like an ornament, like a wooden plank, and you must walk it to the front of the room, your heart will become a drum. You will forget the reason of your feet. Your face will call your bluff. This is the 5th time this week your body has become a bus and swallowed you under it. There is no equation for correcting an unwanted erection. Walk with hands hammered into the stitching of your pockets. Pretend to be searching for the sun. Set your binder before your zipper. Tap your thumb, play it cool, cock your chin back. Break no sweat, you soldier of study. You bucket of brave, you fruit of the loom panic. Got this. God. Possessed or bold, stealthy like hawk, you steal a cigar from your uncle's jacket. Never mind the fact that he just got out of prison and has a circus wire temper. You've seen the way smoke bellows from his blackened lips and think you too can make smoke rise. Front flip up your throat and slide down your nostrils. Puff out a ring to slide on any girl's naked finger. Too cool for school and too hot for curfew, you stuff your pants with a sock and learn to walk chest puffed and panting. Learn to show your teeth and drool without reason. Gasoline for ego, blood type ticking. Preteen is a shirt too small for your budding muscles. You take the tattered lighter found on your way home from school. Light, inhale, and keep the smoke safely in your cheeks. Do you still perform autopsies on conversations you've had lives ago? Are you still wondering what gender the voice in your head is? Is it still asking for a name? Because today you watched him, thought his voice cotton candy melting beneath your tongue, his hand the best piece of jewelry on the playground. Today you don't want your hands, think them too rough, too big for your wrists, bent, dangled, 8th grade, and God hates the gaze. You don't know words like spectrum, fluid, weren't taught their taste. They too sweet, and mother never allowed her boys too much sugar, so you shift, alter your taste at the altar, become something worthy to call man. They'll build the closet for you and spend the rest of their lives begging you to come out. Bro, I loved your poem, no homo. Great job in gym today, no homo. Do you know what's for lunch? No homo. Can I borrow a pencil? No homo. Nice haircut, no homo. Do you do the homework? No homo. Are those new shoes? No homo. You got a jump shot, no homo. Can I copy your homework? No homo. What page number we on? No homo. Do you need to ride? No homo. What you like? No homo. What class you got? No homo. Kill, marry, or fuck? No homo. Battle me, bro? No homo. You trying out for the play? No homo. When can I come over? No homo. What answer you get? No homo. You know she like you, right? No homo. You should write a poem about me, bro? No homo. That's so ridiculous. 13. And everything is a mirror. And you can't decide what to wear. How to please everyone and still like what you got on. Your birthday 2 months away, and mom can't find her lipstick. Thinks Aunt Charlotte took it. The same summer Sherman tells you to throw away your purple scarf, and you do. And you laugh less because Uncle Paul say a smiling boy is a sweet boy. So you flex your jaw, and you watch your walk become a weapon to protect your sisters with. 14 is a shirt too big for your meager shoulders, your journals and private browsing. 14 ain't got no room for your pretty words or clean nails. Role models of mechanical tools give you a hammer to become. So we throw ourselves at the glass.
Thank you so much to you all for being here and to Donte for these amazing poems. If you would like your book signed, you can come up and we'll make a line going this way. Before you leave, please stop by the tables. We have counseling, creative writing, and the Queer Trans Union is here to answer questions and give you materials. So thank you.